How is everyone today?
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. This is the Healing Project Pandemic Series, and I am your webinar host, Imara McClure. This new year has come in with a bang, and it is a reminder that we must be even more mindful about taking care of ourselves. So, the topic for today is detoxification of the lungs. But before we get started, I have a few announcements to make. Firstly, I would like to personally invite you to make direct contact with me if you ever have a problem accessing a webinar. You should have received an email and text from Ms. J with my contact information. Also, since this class is being recorded, as a courtesy to your classmates and the presenters, we ask that you stop your video if you need to take care of personal business, and this is to secure your privacy. All mics will be muted to give each speaker the opportunity to complete his or her presentation. We are happy to announce that the Healing Project Pandemic Series will be featured once a month for the rest of the year. And as usual, you will receive a link for this recording as soon as post-production is complete. Please do not share it because it is unique to your registration code. We do, however, encourage you to hold watch parties with your family, friends, and neighbors. And please invite them to commit to improved health and register for the upcoming webinars. As always, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat section below or save them for our discussion segment later on. And with that, I would love to give a warm introduction to my teacher, mentor, and friend, Ms. J.
How you doing? Thank you, Amara. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you today, and honored and privileged because our circle of influence has expanded in a wonderful way. The team and I really appreciate the investment you've made to do better and be better. And I certainly welcome my friend, Matthew Wood, and look forward to his wonderful input later on in the session. First, I'd like to give a shout out to Russell. Russell celebrated his birthday Friday, January 8th. So everybody, happy birthday, Russell, yay!
Hey, Russ, happy birthday.
Before we begin, I would like to also mention that the music that you heard today was produced by Amenbir Singh. He's my acupuncturist, gong healer, and meditation teacher. And Apsahadi Hoa means, you, Divine One, have become my refuge. True is your support. Great, creative, infinite. Okay? So now let's take a moment to breathe deeply. And you can follow the GIF here. We want to breathe, inhale, hold, and exhale. Okay, so let's follow it for 6 times. Breathe in. hold, exhale. And hear your breath, appreciate your breath, breathe in, hold, exhale. Third time, breathe in, hold it, exhale. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Two more times. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out. Last time. Inhale, hold it, and exhale. Okay. So the person that I wanted to highlight to illustrate breathing is Jesse Owens, but what I'd like you to do for this space and time is to suspend all distractions and take a moment to unwind and release worry and pain. Let your body feel awake. You know, as a runner, Jesse Owens had to feel alive when he woke up. Feel your life force as it flows through your body and be healed from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. Change your mind and change your life. When you're ready, just feel the blood coursing through your veins. You know, take a moment to be with yourself and bless yourself in gratitude. Jesse Owens said, the only victory that counts is the one over yourself. He was born to a sharecropper family on September 12, 1913 in Oakville, Alabama, and he eventually got an opportunity to attend Ohio State University. Under the tutelage of Larry Snyder, he became a celebrated American track and field athlete. And we all need a mentor. We all need someone to guide us through. He specialized in sprints and long jumps, and he was recognized in his lifetime as perhaps the greatest and most famous athlete in track and field history. Now, another quote that I love that he gave us is, I let my feet spend as little time on the ground as possible, from the air fast down and from the ground fast up. And he said that when asked, you know, how he managed to move so quickly. He was the most successful athlete at the Games and was credited with single-handedly crushing Hitler's myth of Aryan supremacy. But he wasn't invited to the White House to shake hands with United States President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He happened to have been a staunch Republican. Now, I don't know, that might have made a difference. Another quote of his that I'd like to share with you is, one chance is all you need. And so throughout our lives, we get different opportunities to fulfill our dreams. And one of my dreams is to help people realize that they still have dreams and that their dreams are valuable and you should dust them off and be aware of them. Stay aware of yourself. It's very important. Now, my mentor and friend, Matthew Wood, is here to help us remain mindful about our lung health during this pandemic. But first, I want to, in mentioning the pandemic, highlight the fact that there was a field of flags erected for those we lost in the pandemic and are still losing. In your package, you will receive this video of Miss Key singing Amazing Grace. And that is something that she sang in the hospital room to help ease the pain of people passing on. It's such a large number, it's just overwhelming. And seeing how they were passing, alone. And she was just trying to be a healing force in her space. And we celebrate her for that. This is a wonderful picture, as you can see, of our new leadership. And as you know, today I had to put it in because this is a historical day. This is Inauguration Day. It was mentioned last night by Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. One country, one destiny is a quote that she had given John Lewis as his last gift before he passed on. That was a quote from Abraham Lincoln. And that's what we must strive for, one country and one destiny, because we are all born and we're all going to die. And we need to leave a legacy that's worth leaving for the future generations. Now, I want to give you a layman's overview of lung anatomy and share my experience of how Matthew Wood entered my life. We've come to the really good part of the show. I was studying holistic health, and while studying herbalism, my textbook included Matthew Wood's philosophy and his wisdom about animal medicine. And I just felt my brain explode. I'm like, animal medicine, wow. The Native Americans actually watched animals to see how they could heal themselves by watching what the animal went to, and I'm looking forward to Matthew giving us a few words on what that's all about. That's what drew me to Matthew. And I said to myself, I have to meet Matthew Wood. So I set myself on a quest to find out more about him. And I registered with a school, Arbor Vitae in Manhattan, and saw that Matthew was giving a workshop on the thyroid. And at that point in time, different people were coming to me with thyroid issues. And I said, wow, this is just wonderful, because now two birds with one stone. I get to meet Matt and learn about thyroids. And I grabbed a friend and ran uptown and made myself known to Matt. As a matter of fact, he had a little cold that evening, and I even shared some candy with him. I can't remember if it was lemon or ginger, probably ginger, I don't know. But the picture you see is the picture we took in that class. And as you can see, I was happy as a lark, okay? I hope you were too, Matt. It sure has been a pleasure. So in moving into herbs and what they mean to us as far as our lungs are concerned and detoxification of the lungs, I want to just give you an overview so you can understand some things when Matthew starts sharing with us. Our lungs allow us to breathe. They're a vital part of the respiratory system. And the respiratory system includes airways that carry air in and out of our lungs, blood vessels surrounding the lungs, and the muscles that help us breathe. Now, the airways are the nasal cavities, the mouth, the larynx, which is the voice box, the trachea, the windpipe, and the bronchial tubes. So that helps bring oxygen-rich air into our lungs, and it helps us release carbon dioxide, which is a waste gas, out of our lungs. Then came COVID-19. COVID-19 affects different people in different ways, and infected people have reported a wide range of symptoms from mild to severe illness. This is something that we are privileged to discuss in Matthew's classes. He keeps us on point as far as discussing, okay, well, what have you noticed, or what have you taken? What herbs have you taken? So the symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. Now, it has damaging effects on various parts of the body. The brain, people have had strokes and seizures. The intestines, people reported diarrhea. I certainly, for personal experience, know that to be true. It affects the kidneys, the blood vessels. I've heard cases where blood clots were found after autopsy, just numerous blood clots in the body, and the heart. So they report inflammation of the heart, and certainly the lungs. You hear about pneumonia being a cause of death very often. So on November 17, 2020, the Mayo Clinic reported that the type of pneumonia often associated with COVID-19 can cause long-standing damage to the air sacs in the lungs. The resulting scar tissue can lead to long-term breathing problems. So possible COVID-19 symptoms are diarrhea, fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting. Now, you must be aware of whether you're having a severe symptom or a mild symptom. Immediate emergency medical care comes into play when you're having trouble breathing, you have persistent chest pains or chest pressure, you have new confusion, not the kind where, oh, where did I leave my keys? Like real confusion. Inability to awaken, inability to stay awake, a bluish lips or face. We're moving closer to our moment, our Matthew Wood moment. And I would like to mention that he has published several books, as you see listed here. And of course, all of you will get this presentation, so you'll be able to go through and, really put them on your bookshelf. If they're still in print, I imagine he'll let us know what is in print and what is not. I love this picture of you, Matt. I love it. A real woodsman. Okay. So we're at the point where we're talking about animal medicine, and I'll let you chime in, Matt. You can unmute yourself, certainly.
Great.
How you doing? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Bear medicine and rabbit medicine. Bear medicine is stamina. I would say the animal medicine idea is worldwide. First, I'll say, and one animal medicine in particular I found on every continent. That's, well, in North America for the native people it would be crane, and it is in Siberia and Europe too. That would be in Egypt, the ibis-headed god Thoth. The crane is the communicator from the other world to us, from the spirit world to us. And furthermore, I don't know the water birds of Central Africa but I remember reading in the subject that that they had another bird there. It may have been the crane, it might have been the ibis, that was looked upon in exactly the same way. And in fact, they are said to these particular people, not this isn't everybody, they said that they learned their dance steps by watching the crane. And the dance steps are a alphabet. You know, they are a system of communication, and that's what crane does. And then when you get to Egypt, I remember I was at a sale of African masks from West Africa, the coast. And when I looked at them, I said, oh, now I understand the Egyptian gods. They are, they're so African in that sense of the mask on a human being, or really the head. I mean, you know, they are part animal, part human.
Mm-hmm.
So crane is universal and stands for that communication. Okay, so bear is stamina, and like it happens for sunflower seed. It's good when there's kind of hollowed out under the eye. We would call it adrenal deficiency or adrenal exhaustion. That's not actually accepted by medicine as a real disease, but I believe in it. Hollowed out look, tired. And other bear medicines, just darkness under the eyes, would be Siberian ginseng, which is bear country. So that's the logic, is that the animal, well, we don't know. Okay, so the bear medicines generally have a brown furry root that looks like a bear paw. And actually sunflower is actually in that category. Angelica would be the most famous, maybe uncommon in gardens and in the wild. But and I mean, I've dug up some of these in the Rockies. Which one? It's called well, bear root, balsamirized. It looks like a fist coming out of the ground, like raw, raw, raw. It's like, whoa. Rabbit, these are well paired because rabbit is also, that's for the nervous person who needs to build up their adrenals. Generally, people that get run down adrenals are either the bear type and they overextend themselves. Been there, done that, probably most of us. Or the rabbit type, thin, nervous, don't have a lot of stamina to begin with. So, yeah. So, things that the tonics kind of fit rabbit a lot. So that's a general overview. Some of the rabbit medicines are good for the lungs too. Yeah, what?
Sorry. Go ahead. Say what you said again. I'm sorry.
Well, just some of the rabbit medicines are very good for the lungs. Same with bear medicines too. Rabbit tobacco in the South, that's a Cherokee name, but everyone uses it, black, white, and native down there. It's a major cold remedy, and that's good for people who've had asthma from birth or weaknesses of the lungs. That would be rabbit weakness. Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind, since I run across a lot of people who complain of asthma.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually in New York there, you're probably going to have to get helichrysum, which is the European version of that plant. They're just about the same.
Oh, that's good, because I use helichrysum a lot.
Oh, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much the same.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I can move on to bat now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was really fascinating.
Well, this is, yeah. So I had, so right at the beginning, it's hard to, it was a year ago, really. It was a year ago in February that I first heard about COVID, and it was like, whoa, well, we called it coronavirus then, didn't we? And it was like, whoa, what are the medicines here? One medicine I'll mention right away was lomatium, which is one of the bear roots. And that's what they used in the 1918 epidemic. My great grandmother died in the east side of Manhattan in 1918. So lomatium, and I did use that when I first got infected. A little voice said as I was going to bed, "You are now personally acquainted with the coronavirus." And I woke up with a heartbeat of about 150 beats per minute.
Hmm.
And I took Lomatium, and Lomatium, a little voice said, again, this doesn't always happen to me, so I was grateful. I'm
Yes.
for things that are out of control. I'm for
Hmm.
things that are out of control. And my heartbeat, so I do feel, and that had happened a few more times, not too often, not as bad, but I do feel that would have gone into fever, and then I would have been really sick, like a lot of people. But that kept it, but I became a long hauler, you know about that too, just long drawn out case. But at any rate, I never got that severe fever. But
Right.
so I had to start thinking on my feet, and how was it, Holly? I'd had Bartonella, one of the terrible Lyme co-infection diseases, and for is that a virus? It's a very small bacteria, and it for the exhaustion, bacterial viral, oh, that sinking feeling you get.
Mhm.
Um, I yeah, this is a great organization here. That sinking feeling, I found that holly and the Bach flower essence holly would be very good if that's all you had. I have used the leaf.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I've been using holly.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, great. Yeah.
The
And
Bach flower, yeah.
yeah, I
Mhm.
also feel it's good for the heart. I'd get this clenching, closed in feeling in my chest, and then I'd take that and I'd wake up, boom, like, I mean, I was waking up with this happening. Boom, my circulation would open up. So
Hmm.
it sure attacked my heart. That happened 10 or 12 times. I don't know what to call it in medical terms, but uh, the old time, 100 years ago, they would have called it orgasm of the heart.
Would it be palpitations? Would it? Would it
Uh,
be palpitations?
well, I had like a tension over the chest, and then I took the holly and boom, like it would open up the circulation just vast. And I never got infected in the lungs, but always the heart was affected.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did make one note I wanted to make to encourage people. This is
Mm,
off topic, but you mentioned the damage to the blood vessels.
yes.
Fortunately, blood vessels regenerate. Like if we gain a, a pound of weight, we
Mm,
gain 1 million miles of capillaries, I have read. If we lose a pound, we lose 1 million miles. So the capillary bed is constantly remaking itself. Of course, if you're 90 years old, a little bit less,
mhm.
but so this damage, all this leaking, all this terrible stuff going on, um, this aspect at least I think is curable. It's like the liver damage is pretty curable if once you
Mm.
stop drinking, etc., drugs, the liver can regenerate. This and the same is true for the blood vessels. So if we make it through the terrible attack on our body, that's one thing that's gonna um, regrow and be better again. It's not gonna stay with us. So
But you know me,
yeah,
I'm always going to ask, do you know, can you give me the spelling of lamatium?
yeah. Lomatium.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there another name it goes by, or that's it?
Well, unbelievably, it goes by the name bear root.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And you know, of all things, when I went in my jewelry box this morning, I pulled out a little miniature bear. I said, "Oh yeah, Matthew's coming."
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, one thing, okay, the berries are toxic or very bad diarrhea and upset stomach
Oh
from them.
yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
of the holly, but just a few more things. And I thought, well, there's dispute about where the virus came from, but it came from the bats at least. Ultimately, maybe it was genetically engineered, maybe not. But
Yeah, they're not mentioning that anymore. The wet markets.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Not that
Well, bats have a very rapid immune system, and they respond like boom, and it's like the viruses to cause them to get sick have to be like boom. So
Mm.
it appears that coronavirus developed this boom, and then it crossed the species barrier into us. So it was originally a bat medicine. I mean, they know at least 96% of the genome for COVID was already present in a bat 15 years ago.
Whoa.
So whether it was fiddled with or how, or nature did it, or mankind, or uh, one person even said aliens from outer space, maybe. um, Wherever it came from, the bats
Plenty
had
of
it
those
first.
in
So,
the recent past, yeah.
and holly is a bat medicine. We see, like, it looks like the wings there, but also in the tree in the forest, say in the Appalachian Mountains, it's the darkest. And if there's no caves, that's where they'll have their little homes, because it's so dark in the center.
Mhm.
So that's bat medicine. And oh, one thing and they live in the darkness.
Mhm.
One thing that after a week that COVID said to me, and this is still pertinent to our modern dialogue today, COVID
Mhm.
said, I am everything. Oh, I just felt this ectoplasm, dark absence of light hanging over my bed. And then after a half hour, I just spontaneously said, I felt this hatred emanating from it. I said, why do you hate me so much?
Mhm.
And it said, I'm everything that you hate. And I
Mm.
felt like, well, we got to detoxify our hearts.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We have a session, Detoxify the Heart, coming up too.
Oh, great. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, we can move on here.
Yes, we're gonna move on.
Uh,
Now, something I'm just in love with because I always bring it up because
yeah.
it saved me during my pandemic episode with that congealed mucus situation.
Oh, tell us about it, because I haven't used it for that. See, I always say a good teacher has their students become better than them.
To be as good as you would be like heaven's gift to me. Um, so in my research, I found that it's a kidney tonic and it heals broken bones. And that's how uh, I came into it at first. Because remember, I was having a problem with my knee.
Yeah.
And it was mentioned on your Facebook page, I believe. And I was like, whoa, let me go get that. So I didn't have broken bones, but I had inflamed connective tissue around my knee.
Yeah.
So torn, injured, inflamed connective tissue, and it detoxifies the blood, expels mucus. Yes, it does. And you're cited all over the internet as applying it to Lyme disease.
Yes.
Yes, your name is right. Wood. He said it.
Yeah.
So one morning I woke up, and so the main thing I knew is I didn't want the mucus to get into my lungs.
Yeah.
And it was piling up in my sinuses and getting down in my throat. It's just so thick and inhibiting, for it. It wasn't hard for me to breathe. It was just there. And I said, well, you know what? It said that teasel pushes things out. So we're going to see how it does with this mucus. And I took a few drops of it. And within 3 minutes, I wouldn't even say it was 5 minutes, within 3 minutes, all of a sudden I expelled, not to be too graphic, but to just give you an idea, a sheet of mucus.
Wow.
And then it was gone.
Wow.
And every now and then, my sinuses experience some congestion. It's hard for me to tell if it's from having had COVID, because I've always had a problem with my sinuses, but it lets up. It lets up and then it comes back a little bit. But I always go to my teasel,
Hmm.
and within an hour, I'm good. But I've not had that dramatic a reaction since then because it hasn't been that bad since then.
Wow. Yeah, and you recommended on our advanced class that I try teasel, and I was like, of course, because my problem has been filling of the ears with water,
Yeah.
and the leaves around the teasel fill with water. Little frogs will live in there. They form a cup and catch water. So, and that's why
What
it's a
did you
healing
say?
remedy.
Did you say frogs?
Yes, yes, little green tree frogs will. It's like a
Yeah.
spa. Yeah, it's like a spa for little frog
Ah,
or a
oh
food
my God.
or
And
a grocery store maybe. There may be insects that die there.
so
I
did
don't.
you try it?
What's that? I haven't tried it yet, but actually I'm gonna. I'll write it on my. I'm trying to take notes in case something comes up I want to talk about.
Yeah, because
Um,
I would like to hear if it helped that sore throat.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's related to the ears, and I got a lot of mucus in there. And,
Mm-hmm.
I,
Yeah. Mm. Each one
so,
healed one.
you know, this looks like a little person. This picture with the crown of victory.
Yes, it does. Doesn't it? It does. I'm gonna go on.
Yep.
Solomon seal. Wait a minute. Solomon seal. You brought that to my consciousness. Treats lung disorders, reduces inflammation, heals ulcers, bruises, hemorrhoids, manages water retention. I actually put it in my bath water sometimes. And I also, you called it muck. Remember, I made a poultice for my knee, and I
Mm.
put the Solomon seal and bring to mind what else it was. Solomon seal and
A marshmallow maybe. That would
no,
be
it was
teasel.
no. I'll remember, or I'll go to my box while you're talking and pick it up, and it's in my apothecary box.
Yeah.
But would you talk about Solomon seal a little bit while I do that?
Well, here we have one which is a very important traditional Afro-American remedy of the South, well, of the whole country, really. But this is well, it's likely that more than one plant was called High John the Conqueror, but this is the one that I know that was often called that, which probably means it had an analog in Africa that looked similar. Um, but at any rate, it was a very important remedy. You can look up information. Hi, John. But for simple use here, you see how the leaf folds around the stem there, and some of the Solomon seals, that's even more. Well, it looks like a muscle holding onto a bone. So it's for that tendons, for the attachment, for the fascia, holding the muscle to the bone. And it is a great, great tendon remedy, but it acts on all connective tissue. If you did not have any other medicine for any kind of connective tissue, bone, tendon, well, the muscles are have the tendons running through them. Skin, mucosa, synovial fluid, so synovial membrane, so that's around the knee. Well, I guess that's not really a connective tissue, but supporting the connective tissue. So it's a very useful remedy. This is so useful that I don't want us to use it up. So anybody who can plant it should, including if you have a little patch in New York City. This is such an extremely valuable plant. Um, this is one of the top 3 most valuable plants I know. So we
Mm,
can see why it became a famous plant, but it wasn't just medicinal, it was magical too. It said if you wore Solomon seal, a person couldn't hit you. So it was protection medicine too.
mhm.
And the herb isn't described, but in the Frederick Douglass's his autobiography in the first edition, the New England abolitionists cut it out because they didn't like magic, but it's in the first. he doesn't say this worked. He just says, well, it's a funny thing. I ran this old guy in the forest told me, this old black guy told me to wear this, and I've never been hit since.
Mm.
And that was after his master had beaten him up, and he went back, as you may know in that story, and beat him up, which took a lot of uh, courage or, or craziness or a good herb. At any rate, this is part of originally Southern Black history to a great extent, this particular herb. And
Mm.
it is used by Native people and the whites down there, but they don't have that association with it. Although the ones that deal, this is known to white people like me because of herb sellers that, have black clients and stuff. Like Tommy Bass talks about it. He's a BASS down in Georgia. He's dead now, but
Mm.
so, but this is, like I say, just so extremely valuable. So what is the formula there?
Bone set.
Oh yeah. Oh, great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a bone set and Solomon seal, and I use olive oil as the base to,
Oh,
yeah, make it nice and juicy.
well, that makes it a truly a diverse, because the olive oil comes from, of course, the Europeans and Northern Africans, and the bone set is just truly a Native American remedy. Um, and then the Solomon seal is so widespread in so many cultures, not so much in Europe. Um,
Mhm.
I just don't know. I'd really like to know. There's got to be a plant like this in Africa, I'm sure. So, yeah.
And while I was over there, see our little mascot? Can you see him? See our little bear mascot?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, he came out and visited me today from the bottom of the bowl. While you're on Native Americans, would you just tell us how, because I heard an interview where you told about where you grew up, and
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
my dad got, when I was a week old, my dad got hired white. He was unemployed. He got hired to be a teacher on the Seminole Indian Reservation in Big Cypress Swamp in Florida, which is in the Everglades. And so next week, off we go. And I spent the first 2 years of my life there, which is, I can't remember a lot of it, but it so deeply impacted me because I learned both Muskogee and English, and I didn't actually learn to speak until we left. I think I was a little bit too overwhelmed by, but and so English has always felt like the second language to me, and I feel like Muskogee was my first language
Mhm.
because it's a much more expressive, it's a more spiritual language. Our language, unfortunately, has been, oh, when I was 20, then I had to learn astrology to put symbols back in my language. So English has been stripped of that. So um, yeah, and English was not a first language for anybody there but my parents, and there was some Bible translators there too. So
Mhm.
they had only signed a treaty with the U.S. government 20 years before. So up to that time, they were just unrecognized Indians, natives living in the forest there. So, and some of them still had not signed. It took till the 1960s to get them all to
Mhm.
agree. And so they were, so they had a really different culture. And I'm really grateful of that because I can't say that I like Western culture that much. So, but we're trying to change it, all of us.
Yes, yes, we're
So,
coming along. We're coming along.
yep, right.
Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. I listened to that interview a few times because it was just so wonderful. I said, "Oh, this is wonderful to know about Matt." So burdock, it's rich in antioxidants. I use it as a hair rinse.
Oh, Wow.
Yeah, I after I wash my hair and condition it, the last rinse I use is some burdock tea that I prepared ahead of time and strained and just pour it over my scalp, and I don't rinse it out.
So
So mhm,
it has, you can feel the difference?
I can feel it's very healing to the scalp. As a matter of fact, in the detoxification of the skin session, we're going to, I'm going to talk about shingles. So I'm going to be uh, coming to you to discuss some of that as well. And the guest is a former student of mine, and she's a trichologist. She's going to be talking about the scalp in relation to the skin, because people don't, they say my skin, but they don't think of their head, their scalp being a part of their skin, you know, for some odd reason. And so we want to highlight shingles because it's a nerve disease. If I'm not, is it a disease or an affliction? How would we refer to it?
Virus. They say it's a herpes virus, so it's an infection. Yeah.
Infection, okay. And then with the loss of hair, we'll talk about the different reasons why people lose their hair, you know, nutrition being part of it, stress being a big part of it, you know. And my mother had alopecia, and I know it was stress. I know it started from stress. Yeah.
Yep.
So uh and medications too, medications.
This has potential as a product. If there's anybody out there, you know, if you make one good product, you can support yourself. And burdock used to be a hair tonic, very popular in the United States. It still is popular in Europe, but and it is native to Europe, I should say, this plant. It
Mhm.
grows everywhere in the United States. But
Mhm.
it is a great hair tonic, and it's underused,
Yeah.
so not known enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we'll try to change that.
Oh, and it is a bear medicine, although it's not brown furry. They look kind of like bears there, those roots.
Mhm.
Bear
Nice
people.
fruits.
And
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
burr is where the fur is.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm a great believer too.
Beautiful.
This is one of the top 3 or 5 plants also.
Okay. Yeah, I love burdock. I drink it sometimes too. So it removes toxins in the blood, treats skin issues, and stimulates hair growth, and rich in antioxidants.
Oh,
You're gonna click
yeah.
agrimony. Oh, but you taught me about agrimony. And oh, it works.
Uh-huh.
Heart tonic, sedative, sore throat,
Mm.
upset stomach, and antihistamine. And Matt, could you please tell that story about how it's used in a spiritual way?
Well, this is, you know, I had one of my native teachers, he taught us, I always believed everything acts on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual level in a spiritual, psychological sense. But he taught us that everything works on a magical level too. And agrimony is the most reliable thing I know about herbalism of everything, of all these herbs. The most reliable is that agrimony will get rid of work stresses, particularly like a boss that's too overbearing or employees that are too rebellious. It really sorts out that hierarchical problem. It also worked for landlord-tenant problems too. There's New York for you. You need that. and,
Truly.
and
Mhm.
and I've just never known it to fail. Although sometimes all I could do was a kind of a gentle, mild adjustment. It couldn't really. Oh, and once in a while you got to quit your job.
Once in a while, yep.
Because you're taking it too much. You're taking it, and that employer is not going to change.
Mhm.
And like, get out of there. But so it's magical. You can use the Bach flower essence, or the the plant. And I should say too, you've picked an excellent selection of plants here, because this one combines really well with Solomon seal just for relaxation.
Mm.
You put the two together about 50-50. No, about 2 parts Solomon seal to 1 part agrimony,
Mhm.
and it's so relaxing. It's like, whoa.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it is my all-time favorite alopecia remedy. Is your mother still with us at all, or?
No, she left in 2002.
Okay. Oh, back there. But
Yeah.
it's a pretty reliable remedy for alopecia.
Oh, good. So, but I know plenty of people, and I can fight it myself. You know, it's the great preventative.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Actually, that means it would combine well with burdock, now that I think about it. And
Let
also, it's it's
So
really,
acrimony
yeah,
with Solomon seal and burdock.
yeah.
Hmm. Okay. And you know, with agrimony, I have it in every form I can imagine. I have it in herb form, flower essence form. I made I put it in the spiritual tea, spiritual spray form.
Mm,
Yes, it's doing its work.
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I just combine it. You can combine it with Solomon seal on the one hand or burdock on the other. I'd say, I'm not sure. All three of them probably are good, but I haven't thought through what that would be for. But
Okay.
agrimony also good for women who like just constantly do things with their hair, like and for white women at least. What is that? I don't know hair stuff, so it, I can't, I can't remember what that is, but it's
What's
like
Worms.
it just yeah, perms, yeah, which damages the
Oh,
hair.
yeah. No.
Yeah,
Black
and
Perms, bleaching,
yeah,
bleaching.
the
mm-hmm.
things that damage your hair, this really not only does it help kind of counteract the bad influence of those chemicals and stuff, but you just feel more at peace with your hair, which sounds crazy. I don't know why that is, but it just is, So,
You mean they twirl it?
oh, okay, that no, more like they just want to do things to it all the time. They want to,
Oh, always fiddling with it.
yeah, well, always going to the hairdresser too often, too many
Oh,
chemicals in there. Yeah,
because I think a lot of times I believe that women put too much trust in other people for their self-care. You know, you know, men sort of escape that for the most part. They slap it together and gone. But women, they have to be, oh, this has to be this way. You know, I met a young woman last week um, who had a tummy tuck that went haywire,
ooh,
and she's beautiful, so it's just a matter of trying to begin to find a new way to love yourself so that other people's opinions about who you are, who you are presented as, who God made you as,
yeah,
is fine with you, you know? So it's a level of self-love that has to be actively pursued. And nobody else can do that for you. You might feel good for a time, but one thing, I always joke about this. When I would hang out with my girlfriends and we'd leave the house with all these curls and we'd leave the club and have an afro, because we had straightened our hair with the straightening comb, but that was not a permanent situation for sure. And we had to be happy with that afro. You know what I mean? And the Black is Beautiful movement helped us grow into that.
mm,
But I still wish I could get women to stop using perms
mm,
because over time it damages the scalp. the scalp is what you want to keep healthy. That's what keeps the hair healthy.
Wow, thanks for that lesson. Yeah, and burdock and agrimony would be a good combo for that type of problem. Yeah.
Mm, okay.
Hi,
So,
Miss J. I just want to step in. I don't know if you wanted to still do a brief intermission or not.
I think we're on a roll and there will be repeats. So we're going to keep moving on. I appreciate
Alrighty.
it though. Mm-hmm. That's my Amara. Don't you all give Amara a reaction or something? I'm going to give her a reaction right now. That's how I feel about you, Amara.
yeah.
Wonderful. So we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Dandelion root. Yes, you helped me with that the other day. For Barry, he's here. I got him on dandelion root. Wave to Matt, Barry. You have your dandelion root nearby. Treats the stomach and liver conditions, acne, eczema, high cholesterol, heartburn, gastrointestinal disorders, and diabetes. Yes, he's showing you his dandelion tincture. We went and got it. Because he had that jaw problem. Barry, you want to unmute and tell him about that?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank you, Matthew, for really coming through with a quick remedy for me, because it was starting to be an aggravation that was just growing and not knowing exactly what the root of the problem was. It's TMJ. Don't ask me what the acronym actually defines, is the definition of it. But once I went to the doctor and they took a x-ray of my total jaw panoramic view, they saw that there was some mass in my jaw that was kind of forming. And, I like to subscribe to holistic remedies first before going another direction. And I immediately consulted with Ms. Jones, and she subscribed to what your remedy was. And I have been hooked on it ever since. And I got to tell you, I've kind of grown accustomed to the taste as well. So thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
And
Yeah.
it's temporomandibular, temporomandibular.
Yeah,
That's a long one.
that's why I'm glad you're trying to pronounce it, because I can't.
I'm going to type it in chat. I feel everyone should know how to spell things. So I'm going to type it in chat. Go ahead.
Well, joint is good enough for me. Yeah.
So do you want to say something about dandelion?
Well, it's good for infection in the bone, which is very hard to treat even by doctors. And yet it's like, I don't know of any other herb that can help with that. I would guess, I don't really know, but there must have been some heat, some inflammation. Could have started with a bad tooth or a root, or as we say in Minnesota, root, I'm sorry. Or it or it could have been just, lifetime overuse, etc., or tightening or something, muscles tightening and then causing inflammation. Yeah, so but inflammation in the bone is really hard to treat, and this really is good, and it's serious too. Now, I don't know, it's possible. Oh, I know. This acts very well on this area. It's sternocleidomastoid mastoid, that I do know how to pronounce. The muscle in here, when those get swollen or inflamed in there, so it must have traveled from the muscles and maybe the glands up into the TMJ.
Yes, that's what it felt like. It just came on very mildly. It wasn't something that all of a sudden it was there. It was like, it kind of grew to it. I thought it was actually my glands swelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, it just progressed and progressed. and I noticed that it just stayed right under my temple and right next to the jaw.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I need to find out exactly what's going on, because I was thinking it was just some form of inflammation in the gland.
Mhm.
Well, I think it started with inflammation in the gland, most likely. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I was always aware that I had that word TMJ,
Oh,
but I never really felt any effects of it. Then maybe your jaw getting locked for a second and then releasing, but that was it all throughout my life. But recently it's now this like swelling and aching feeling. So I've been remedying it with the tea, the herbal tea, and the dandelion.
Mhm. The herbal tea is a tea that I get here from one of my suppliers called turmeric tea,
oh,
and has red root in it and some other things. I can't remember right offhand. I could look it up real quick. But yeah, that's the herbal blend that he's been using.
so it doesn't need to be malignant tumors. These both red root and dandelion are very much for swollen glands and actually swollen muscles in the case of dandelion root, because it's inflammation in the muscle too.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh yes, and the white willow bark.
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah.
So I'm hitting it with a barrage.
yeah.
Thank
I don't like
you again.
I don't like pain. St. John's wort.
Oh, I do want to. One thing I want to say about dandelion, just that these herbs are so common. What Carolyn has chosen are just such common. Almost all of them are available in New York City, and if not, then you go out to northern Westchester or something, you'll find them.
Mm-hmm.
Like Solomon seal. Solomon seal will be in some people's gardens, and the birds drop it, and it is all over, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and St. John's wort would like a good open field. You could grow it, so we can move on. But almost all these are just so readily available. Teasel grows along the freeways everywhere from New York City to San Francisco.
Wow.
St. John's wort's slightly touchy. Um, they must have had it on Long Island before, the kind of on the flat prairies of Long Island. That's where my family came from originally. And but I don't know where. I'm sure in parts of New Jersey, the sand plains, and not pure sand, but it's kind of a. I'm sure that this is going to be in New Jersey. So, but you can grow it, but you expect it to die out once every 2-3 years. You can grow it in your garden. It is pretty. So, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I've included that in my grief tea formula at the funeral home. So, but the main teas are ashwagandha and mugwort,
Hmm.
because a lot of them want to stimulate dreaming.
Yeah.
They want to dream about their loved ones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
But
love St. John's wort.
yeah,
Yeah.
you started your St. John's wort.
Yeah, about a month ago, I use it as a mood booster, especially during the pandemic when everything gets a little depressing.
Yes, that's good. That's good. So my research showed commonly used for depression. That's what it's highly touted for: nervousness, tiredness, poor appetite, and insomnia. Well, the people who come to me and begin the herbal program, they do get some sleep. That's one thing they will get. And it's so important as they try to heal and process their grief, you know. The only one who no, I won't blow you up, Barry. You get your sleep. But he's a night owl, so
Oh.
he's into editing our webinars and things like that, and it hits him at hours when other people are trying to get some rest. So I know if I want to find him, call him in the wee hours, and he'll be at the computer. Right, Bear?
That's correct. That's correct. Yes, I sleep odd hours, but I love it. So yeah.
And thank you for what you do for us.
You're most welcome. This has been wonderful. What a blast for me.
Now, I have this on my library shelf. You recognize it, Matthew?
Yep.
So I pulled some things from it. Eucalyptus steam inhalation, beneficial for congestion. Mustard baths, I definitely do that. I get my mustard powder from Swanson.
Oh.
And it comes in a little container, and put some in every now and then. Especially during these winter months, it's very good, and it also helps with stress and achy muscles. Did you want to say anything about anything here? I put up tobacco addiction because one of my friends has a husband who's still smoking, and she needs some help in that area. So I thought I would put that there for her.
Yeah, now in this book, I also repeated a lot of what other people said. So for instance, the eucalyptus, the mustard, the bell pepper I've never used. The mustard and the eucalyptus I may have recommended, but I don't often use. But the lobelia I have used, and that reminds me of a girlfriend long ago. So I had her take the lobelia tea, and I said, "Is it working?" She said, "Well, anytime I don't have a cigarette, I take the tea." So
that's good.
well, it became a substitute. She didn't quit. She just used it when she didn't have her cigarettes. So she eventually quit, I think. But this is, a lot of people say this is my most useful book here. There's just thousands of remedies in there. So
it's
from there, you can do research. In other books or online. Yeah.
Yes, the other ingredients that are in the turmeric tea, just to go back to that for a moment, mullein, plantain, red clover tips, sanicle, violet, mugwort, and celandine. I think I wasn't able to find celandine.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a little bit toxic. Not too bad, but.
Well, okay. So then I'll just let them continue to formulate it. I won't try to formulate it.
Yeah, that one is celandine is an anti-cancer tumor remedy, but most of the rest of those, as far as I know, those are lymphatic, get your lymph moving, which is very important for cancer or just health in general, and overlooked. Medicine doesn't believe in it. We do. Move your lymph and exercise, running or riding a horse or bouncing up and down really helps the lymphatics.
That's right. Because it won't move unless you move.
Yep.
And bell pepper, yes, you have had. Don't you eat peppers?
Yeah, although I would think that that's probably the hot pepper, not the bell pepper. But at any rate,
I've
used it, but I haven't used it for tobacco addiction. I know that that's in the books. That's why it's in my book, just because other people have reported it.
Now I don't smoke cigarettes, but I love bell peppers. So either way it goes, I'm getting a benefit some kind of way.
Yeah.
Hyssop, antiseptic, expectorant, cough reliever for catarrh, which is excessive discharge or buildup of mucus in the nose or throat, and associated with inflammation of the mucous membrane, and colt's foot. So I'm gonna buy some colt's foot.
Yeah, now hyssop is very interesting. There's a book by a guy named Willie Southall, South with an ALL on it, Southall, who was a black herbalist in Los Angeles, and it's about nothing but hyssop, because hyssop's in the Bible
Right.
And it says, clean me with hyssop and I will be cleaned. And
Mhm.
so there's debate about what is hyssop, and the scholars say, oh, this is not the hyssop that they offered in the temple in Jerusalem is not the hyssop that we use as an herb. So Willie Southall went to Jerusalem, to the Wailing Wall, the old temple wall that still stands, and he said, and I looked at the weeds growing out of the wall, and they were hyssop. So I believe him. No, this actually might be very good. I hadn't thought of this it is in that coronavirus transmissions book. I did mention this because this really opens up when the pores are really tight inside. This might be good for COVID. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Opens the skin and the pores inside. Yeah, here's one I have not used too much. Homeopathy.
Drosera.
Yep.
Yeah. Now I've used Drosera, and
Ah,
I always have to know what it's made of. And I looked that thing up and saw it was made from a carnivorous plant. I said, oh well, it's doing its job. All right. But I just thought that was so interesting. Also called elegant sundews, and it lures, captures, and digests insects using stalk mucilaginous glands covering their leaf surfaces. It also lures, captures, and digests mucus. Okay? Yeah. Have you
okay,
ever used it?
great. I know of it. I don't think I've used it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, here I have a load of information about you so that when people receive their package, they'll be able to read about you. And I have my Corona transmissions, and I made it, hope I made it a little bit better for you to just pull notes from it for you to speak on.
Yeah.
Uh, so, Luli Hong said lungs suffering from an excess of congealed mucus and turbid, liquid, opaque, or cloudy phlegm interferes with proper airway function, causing a possible deadly turn for the worse. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, so you get this heavy congealed mucus and you want to detach that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so the old fashioned, what our grandmothers used, this is everywhere in the world, really, the mustard pack or the onion pack to heat
Mm.
the lungs, and then that causes more circulation, and then water or serum squeezes out full of immune factors and frees up those alveoli that
Mm.
are you know or and the mucus starts to move, and there's quite a few herbs for that. There are also herbs when the lungs are dried out and the cilia are damaged, like mullein, for instance.
Mm.
Um, for getting that impacted mucus off, well, L-campaign, I think you know that.
Yes.
Yep. Probably colt's foot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, I have to say, I do not know of one person using herbs who's died from COVID. And like, we can't cure COVID. We can't kill the virus as far as I know, but we can help alleviate the symptoms so that we survive.
That's right.
So that's what we want to do. And so getting rid of the mucus is really an important thing here. Yeah. Which,
Yes.
although you and I both, we took the medicines that kept it from going down into the lungs. We kept it up in the throat. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we could expel it
Yeah.
once it gets in the lungs. Yeah. So I continued with cilia so people could understand what the cilia are. And they're like little hairs found in the lungs, the respiratory tract, in the middle ear. They have rhythmic waving or beating motion. By keeping airways clear of mucus and dirt, we can breathe easily without irritation. And I thought it was an interesting fact that cilia also helps propel sperm. So all throughout our body, we have this movement going on. Peristaltic action is another form of movement that we have going on that helps our bowels, that it helps us swallow. You know, there are a lot of things that it does. I've spoken about in previous webinars, and it'll keep coming up. So
Very good.
there it is. It's credited for protecting the hairs in the lungs, the cilia, the hairs, yes.
And now I'm wondering, I didn't know about the sperm and the cilia, that this might be a fertility medicine. And you know what it looks like? I mean, it's it gets the picture across. Tall, boom.
Yes, 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 yes. Matter of fact, February's webinar is detoxification of the genitals.
Oh,
And we'll be talking about herbal formulas for helping the vagina and the penis sustain, you know, infections or whatever, or just preventative, keep healthy overall. And certainly going to be talking about, you know, prostate issues and things like that, and
right.
fibroids for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
I put this there just for you, Matthew. Okay.
Yep.
So, sore throat with swollen glands, painful swallowing can be treated with cleavers. And itchy, irritated throat, black seed. I also put it there for berry because I avoided. Yes, yes. All right, guys. Okay.
And
All
we
right.
go.
I avoided this thing like the plague. Okay. It is motor oil personified. But what I do is I add my black seed oil to water and other tinctures and make a tonic. And that way that taste is gone. So I am taking it now. I would like a hand, thank you. May I have a hand, please? Somebody. Thank you. And yes, it does work. It works. Mm. Yes, Thais.
Thanks.
So you want to say anything about black seed or cleavers, Matt?
Well,
Oh.
yeah, so it's very good for sore throat, acute nasal, etc. It's the plant that Muhammad said cured everything but death.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
It is for both low and high immunity.
Mhm.
And yeah, I actually was showing off my bottle, which I got in Jerusalem from a
Ooh, look
Arabic
at you.
street vendor. And
Yes, very nice.
I repeated, he spoke English, you know, and
Oh,
I repeated that, and he smiled. He said, "Yes, you know the thing about Muhammad." So I appreciate his religion. So yeah, I don't mind the taste, but I've eaten so many things over the years at Herbal that it's just gotten so I don't care. It is a beautiful garden herb, by the way. This
oh,
um,
gorgeous.
is, yeah, it really sprinkle the seeds. Yeah, you
Mhm.
can just eat the seeds too, and you'll get it in any Middle
Grow it in
Eastern.
the house?
What?
Can we grow it in the house?
Oh, probably so. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
it's a desert plant, but I know I grew it in Wisconsin here once. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. And one of the things that you say that I really support at all times is get plenty of rest and hydration. So I needed to put that right there for everyone to be reminded. Then you have something about vitamins and minerals, which I am taking vitamin D3 and vitamin B12 at this time. Um, but, you know, would you like to say anything about those minerals?
Well, vitamin D3 has definitely um, helped with viral immunity, like in all sorts of people. It's just extremely well proven, and there are debates about whether skin color you get less sunlight if darker your skin is, and that cuts down on your vitamin D. I don't think that I mean, that makes like sense, like just intuitively maybe, but it doesn't necessarily turn out to be medically true. We don't know yet, but I would say everybody, white, black, brown, everybody should take vitamin D3, especially at this time. And it turns out that 49 out of 50 people are deficient. Then the zinc also has antiviral. It should be taken with a cofactor. I forget. You and I will look that up. We'll make sure we'll get that and we can post it to people.
Okay.
I think cedar leaf tea is one thing. So that's a very simple thing. You know, you don't make your tea cedar leaf very strong because it's kind of obnoxious. But and then vitamin C strengthens the tissue underneath, like the mucus. You got your mucous membrane. You got the soft part, then at the bottom you have your hard part, and it strengthens that, and that keeps viruses from penetrating beyond. So vitamin C does have a role and is good, I'd say. So all these things are general antivirals, so to speak. Yeah.
You know, I take liquid vitamin D because if I line up pills, too many pills, I'll fall off.
Yeah.
With liquid vitamin D is one of the things I add to my little concoction.
That's a smart idea. Yeah, I have that problem too.
May I ask a question?
B12 as well. Yes, one moment. The vitamin B12 also is liquid.
Oh yeah, okay.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
My question is about pine pollen. My understanding is that pine pollen is it's a natural plant to receive your vitamin D3. And you can, because vitamin D is provided, it's a hormone provided by the sun. And so the natural one that I just recently learned about was pine pollen. Wanted to know if you had any thoughts on that. And you can order some, you know, there's different brands on Amazon right now that you can order.
Thanks for bringing that up. I only learned about that in the last month or two. So you're up to date. You're ahead of me there. Yeah. Pine pollen's also high in testosterone, natural source of testosterone. I don't know if they take that out when they get the vitamin D, but you know, men and women both could use testosterone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll certainly include that in my research for the genitals webinar, Jennifer. And Matt, you and I could bat that around a little bit, you know, over time, if you like.
Thanks. That was a good comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So Mark just wanted to celebrate that we had a new president officially. That's what he came running in here to do. So
all right. So now, since he wants to have you be his spokesperson,
I know.
Come
a new president. We got a new president.
All right. Good seeing you. Yay. I've known Mark over 50 years, he and his family. Matthew, yeah. So we're going to move on. So I thought this was an interesting term, thermoregulatory system. So protect the mucosal lining. The thermoregulatory system opens and closes the pores of the skin, mucosa, and internal serous membranes. Can you enlighten us a bit about that?
Well, this is granny medicine the world over, that they worked by trying to open. If your skin was dry, they wanted it opened. And if your skin was sweating all the time, they wanted to close that. And they did, in fact, work on both the watery sweat and the oily sweat. And burdock really helps get the oily sweat in order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, there's most of our very simple herbs like peppermint and just in pennyroyal and real simple old, kind of the old English inheritance from across the ocean. A lot of those, oh, and elder, they are very simple, good for opening the skin. Yarrow too. Yarrow has to be on every continent.
Oh, yarrow. I use yarrow a lot.
Yeah, and it will really open the skin. It's a kind of a fierce herb without being too fierce. I wouldn't take it during pregnancy, but otherwise it's totally safe. And even then, occasionally I used it in pregnancy in teeny doses, but it gets rid of heat really well. But yeah, you open the pores or close the pores, or you examine the skin, and all the old granny healers and doctors of olden times, this was, you know, just the most simple, basic thing that everybody did. So, and you know, instead of trying to figure out what's going on in the immune system, you just feel the skin. The thermoregulatory system is like the outermost layer of the immune system. The first thing that happens is you react to the gust of wind, close up all your pores, then you might get sick, you know. They say, oh, you don't get a cold from being cold. No, you do. Because the skin, they ignore it. I don't know why in regular medicine. It's too simple, I think.
But that's what our parents paid attention to.
Yep.
Don't get a chill, they would say.
Right.
And
if you do, you take these hot minty teas would be good. There's other things you could take, but yeah, actually St. John's wort would be good with some of the mints. Yeah, or elder, which isn't a mint. Elder by itself is just good all over. So you get elder is like the great European, the wonder, that was what the peasants all used. Everybody used it. Charlemagne, great king.
I love elder, yeah.
He said every house in France has to have an elder tree in it, in the yard, because it's good for heads, colds, diarrhea, vomiting. It brings on vomiting if you drink too much of it, of the bark. It cleans the blood, etc. Yeah, it warms the center. So
yeah, I thought that was interesting.
And so that became, you know, what else are you going to, that's public health in 800 AD. Everyone have an elder tree.
Yeah, I thought when I read that, I was like, wow, you know, that's actually good leadership.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Yep. Onward.
Yes,
What, yeah, this is kind of universal too. Now, I would say in very hot climates, things may be a bit different. But warm the center, thin the fluids, and keep the pores open. You know, and so in the tropics, everybody has cayenne pepper that keeps the pores open. They have to sweat down there, just they have to. And so in North America, where it's a little colder, this is really important. Keep the center warm. Thin the fluids, that's like L-campaign or those things that, or Grandelia or gumweed, that would be, or things that keep the fluids thin so that they don't build up. So that's COVID problems. We don't want that. Keep the pores open. And pores open, that includes skin, lungs, digestive or colon, so that you poop regularly too, you know, eliminate, healthy elimination. And as we were talking, you were saying keeping the bowels open keeps the lungs open.
Yes, colon cleanses are very important.
Why don't you talk for a bit, because my computer's running down. I'm going to have to get my my plug. So I'll leave it to you for a bit.
Will do. One thing I'm a large proponent of, a big proponent of, is our colon cleansing sessions. I try to make sure I cleanse my colon at least every 2 weeks, and sometimes once a week, you know, depending on how I feel. It was explained to me that within the intestine, and if you find an intestinal chart, you'll see that each part of the intestine it's matched to a particular organ. So that's how I actually alleviated chronic sinus problems, because it was explained to me that the sinus area of my intestine was blocked. And when I started taking colonics, which I don't really do that often now, but I do take Cascara Sagrada to cleanse my colon. And I don't have those deep congestion problems with my sinuses anymore. Every now and then, but not as often as I did. It was, I had it as often as you go to a job before, you know, it was a mess. But also I changed my diet. I don't eat dairy and I don't eat meat. So those are two mucus building products. You know, but I do use just egg as my egg substitute, which is just, oh, it tastes better than eggs to me. And I make the same way, you know, saute the vegetables and throw the just egg in there, mushrooms and stuff, and it makes a delicious omelet. And I use non-dairy cheese because I do love cheese. So I'm happy to have some level of cheese back in my life. And, you know, I like the brand Daiya, Daiya, because the cheese melts very easily. Some cheeses, some substitute cheeses don't melt nicely, but that brand seems to melt very nicely.
Okay, I'm hooked up.
Okay. So I thought it interesting that you had COVID-19 stages in the book. And so the early stage is where you feel cold, dampness, and functional depression. It's funny, it does affect your mood, but I guess any illness would affect your mood. Stage 2, the plague closes the lungs. That's where you have persistent body or cold chills and fever and nasal congestion. So I would say I did get to at least stage 2. Didn't close my lungs, but I got to the fever. Although I didn't feel fever, I my lips started peeling a lot. Like sheets of skin were coming off my lips, and that's how I knew I was getting that I had a fever.
Mm.
And I would wake up in puddles, you know, of sweat. So there was that. But I was also doing the mustard baths, the magnesium flake baths, and rubbing my feet with peppermint oil and putting socks on and dressing warm, and that helps you sweat.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything about this slide?
So this information came from China in February of last year. So this was right from the very earliest, and they are more into symptoms than Western doctors. So, but Western doctors did a lot of symptoms too. And this is in that book, this information. And that severe period, they have a purple tongue. And well, you don't see that very often. Purple tongue, I mean, the blood is just stopping. So, and they did have a stage 4, which is just recovery, where you're just exhausted and you want to recover. So,
Mhm.
yeah. But all diseases have that. Yeah.
Okay, well, are there any closing comments that you would like to make?
Oh, and stage 3 is when you check in with your doctor, the hospital, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and we can see why, if we can address stage 1 and stage 2, even kind of clumsily, you just don't get to stage 3. So you just get that mucus out of there and move it. I'll mention one other herb. It helped a woman with pneumonia recently. I don't think it was COVID, but the cell salt potassium chloride, 6x, 30x. Yeah, I'll spell that. Well, some of these things, Carolyn and I will go over, and we'll just make sure, and we can email people or keep them on a website.
They get a whole resource package, so we could add it to the package.
Yeah, and so that has been good for thinning mucus. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. All
good. Well, we're done,
right.
I guess.
Yeah, so there you are.
Yep.
And I highly recommend this book. It's wonderful. It has poetry in it and everything. I only read your chapter so far because you're my favorite, but I will indulge myself in the whole book. And I encourage everyone to pick it up as well.
Yeah. Mhm.
Hmm. And Matthew, thank you so much. Thank you. I know, you know,
Mhm.
you had your own health concern with your throat,
Yep.
but it did a wonderful job today.
Thank you.
Hmm.
All right.
Thank
Talk
you.
to ya. Bye. Bye.
Bye bye, my darling. Thank you. See you soon.
Yep.
All right, folks. So, with that, how do you feel? I just love him.
Feel
Great.
feel informed. Feel
It's
informed.
informed. A lot of
Yeah.
information, so I'll be looking forward to the package that has some reminders. I tried to jot a couple of things down, but I was like, okay, I'll just wait for the package.
So now
Good.
we get to another favorite part of the webinar, which is the conversation with Barry and Russell. And as if you went to other classes, if you attended other webinars, you know that both of these men have been caregivers and they know sacrifice and have been deeply affected by the stress that often made it feel overwhelming to be a family caregiver. So they're going to take us on a little journey now about how you can alleviate some of that stress in your own lives. Barry and Russell.
Yes. Thank you, Miss J, for that very informative, wonderful presentation on the topic of detoxification of the lungs.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Miss Jones.
Good afternoon, Russell.
Thank you, Matthew.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us and welcome to the conversation. This is going to be the first part of a 4-part series entitled Is Your House in Order? It's basically targeting health care plans for family caregivers. We would like to start off in discussing the topic of health care plans or plan of care for healthcare documentation to be in order for family caregivers, as well as their care recipients. Many times the family caregiver neglects this topic because they're so involved in caring for their loved ones that they really neglect focusing on themselves.
You get older and have more things acquired in life. You do have to look at some of the issues that come with age and time. Um, More so for us as we get older, we don't think about it in our 20s or 30s or 40s, but as a caregiver, you're giving a lot of energy out, and we do have to think about when we're caring for our loved ones, what happens, how many people really have all their documents in order? And in particular, uh, the documents that are pertinent to have prepared for yourself in the event that you become incapacitated. It's really a plan of care. Are you going to be out of work for a few days, a couple of weeks? If it's unfortunate, maybe months or even permanently. Um, we're going to be looking into a plan of care folder that essentially contains 3 documents. There'll be a healthcare proxy, a power of attorney, and a living will. All of these are something that everybody should look into, regardless of whether they're ill or healthy, so that when the time comes for anything to be necessary, these things will be in place.
Okay, so that's correct, Russell. How does one really look at this objectively and get the ability to structure a plan of care? You basically have to start off with some very basic questions to yourself if you're a family caregiver, as well as not only for yourself, but for the care recipient, if they don't already have these documents in order. Ask yourself, how long will you be unable to give care or even care for yourself? How comfortable do you want to be while you're unable to perform your caregiver duties at this time, and yourself possibly being incapacitated? What kind of medical treatment do you or don't you want? And who will care and actually advocate for you during this time of being unable to perform or advocate for yourself? And lastly, just as importantly, who will manage your finances? Because as well as your healthcare issues, you have to have a level of support income-wise. These are the questions that really are the primary or foundation questions that you have to ask yourself and the care recipient before you can actually go to your family. You have to kind of look to a family for support as well, because this is a great undertaking as being a family caregiver and transpiring the information on. So it's going to require what's called a circle of care. A circle of care is basically when all of the family members act in concert for that care recipient or your loved one. It doesn't always just have to be family. It could be very, very close friends or people that are in concern or able to give support in any way. It can be a neighbor, but someone who could act and be responsible, take care of a task for a care recipient. So you really start to ask yourself, why do you need this document? What is it necessary? Why is it necessary? Basically, because this document is a legal and binding document. And the authorities, as well as family members, are those who will have to honor this document.
You know, I was saying, as far as expressing your needs, your desires about how your affairs will be handled, that document does have to be in place, and it is binding. This is for your own protection, so nobody makes any mistakes. There are or any issues of malfeasance or falsifying information. When we pull these things together, the healthcare proxy allows you to get a person, choose a person who will make healthcare decisions for you. This is a legal document, and once it's signed, it's basically part of your living will, also known as an advanced healthcare directive. Who will make medical decisions for you if you're incapacitated or unable to communicate, either due to injury or unfortunately maybe due to mental degradation such as Alzheimer's. This personal directive allows for you to be covered in the event of incapacitation. Part of the consideration is transparency to everybody about who does what or what your wishes and desires are. That is key because you're also looking into your comfort. Uh, how do you want your medical treatment, or what kind of medical treatment will you accept or deny in the event you're incapacitated? Not necessarily going as far as assigning a DNR or do not resuscitate order, but these are things you have to think about. And these are things that family members also have to see in writing, because sometimes their emotions get in the way and they want to change things because of an emotion as opposed to an independently thinking state. Um, I know that when my mother was hospitalized uh, just before she passed, I was with her for the 2 hours prior to her passing, and she had a DNR in place, a do not resuscitate order. And as I sat there holding her hand, the doctor came over and told me that she was starting to code, or she was going into an arrest situation. And they asked me what I wanted to do. And I actually said, yes, you should try to resuscitate her. Her heart stopped twice during the 35 minutes. And after really thinking about it, I told them to stop because those were her wishes. Number one, I wanted her quality of life to be good at any point, but after having your heart stop and possibly the brain losing oxygen, what is her quality of life going to be at 89 and having Alzheimer's and being in the intensive care unit? I had to step back and really think about, okay, this was her wish. I initially reacted very emotionally. I thank God I was there to be with her, but I also thank God that she had the order in place and that I was able to step back and look um, objectively at the situation. But individuals, both caregiver, recipient, anybody needs to have these documents filed to have some sort of security and legally binding situation in place that allows for correct execution and desired execution of your wishes. And that's very important, especially when moving forward with family or transitioning family into various roles as a caregiver. Um, that's why conversation and talk is very important with family on how or what roles will be taken by the caregiver successor.
That's correct. You're absolutely right, Russell. And transitioning, as we spoke to earlier on a brief level, is a process. You really need to speak to the care recipient so that they're comfortable in the decisions that are being made, as well as whoever that's named as that primary caregiver
That's right.
is comfortable with the role that they're going to take. And being that primary caregiver, you have to understand that though you may be compelled to want to do all the tasks at hand, because passion sometimes drives you to really want to just have hands on for everything, it's simply not feasible. And it could be very, very costly health wise to you as a family caregiver. So you should follow the instructions, that the detailed outline of what a circle of care actually offers. When you're acting under the governance of a circle of care, it's your duty as the successor and primary caregiver to ask upon your family members what their schedule might be rendered for them to come in and give support. It doesn't have to be a myriad of tasks at any one given time. It could be one task, such as taking them to go shopping or go shopping themselves for the person that might be incapacitated. It might be taking them to the doctor. It might be just coming by and watching television or talking to them, or whatever interaction that might be beneficial to their quality of life. The one thing that when you're structuring a circle of care that you should be mindful, and the family as well, is that everyone should be very forthcoming about structuring their schedule. Because if you agree to do something and you're unable to perform that task, the task still has to be performed. And if you're unable to perform it, or someone is unable to perform it within the family circle or the circle of care, then someone else will have to pick that task up. And it becomes cumbersome for everyone. So maintaining a structured circle of care schedule is pertinent. Also, you should really have to focus on the quality of care that the care recipient is receiving. That is probably pinnacle, because you want to make sure that that person feels is valued from when you were giving care, is when someone else picks up that role. They want to feel that their quality of life hasn't hit a speed bump, so to speak. And last, but really, really probably pinnacle for a family caregiver that's coming into this role, is to make sure that you evaluate your own personal life, that you're able to perform the tasks, and that you open up time for in your schedule for you to have time for yourself. That's pinnacle in self-care. If you don't allow that personal time, or what they term as respite care time, then you yourself are vulnerable to falling ill at some point. Exhaustion, we discussed that in previous sessions. Your diet may fall off. These are other things that you may not really be paying attention to because you're so committed to the task at hand. So at all costs, you should review your schedule for your personal life to have ample time for you, as well as everyone else involved in the circle of care, to be able to maintain a structured life that allows you some personal time.
So I agree, that's very true. As we all have our lives, and there are many interactions in terms of work or home or taking care of the household. When you become a caregiver, you don't necessarily have the increased size of a plate to put things on, but you have more stuff on that plate. So your time is often, time structure often changes. And you have to be aware of that. And you do have to take care of yourself in order to, it's hard to recognize until you're involved in the situation, but you should definitely always consider that. When we come into the area of preparation, these are things that are proactive. It's sometimes the conversations are a little bit difficult. Sometimes family members or individuals don't want to get involved. We do definitely should take steps to have our documentation in order. The basic stuff, as we were saying, is these are legal documents. You're making decisions as far as what you want to have done. They often have to be notarized. They can be done sometimes at a county clerk's office. It can be done at a law office, so that there's a copy on record. And even some banks, maybe in their trust division or their institutional trust divisions, will be able to notarize, say, your power of attorney or healthcare proxy or your living will. There's always the case where you have to consider your elder care, your elder law, or your estate planning issue. Getting counsel is very important, so mistakes are not made. There's protection for your valuables, property, or your estate. And they can also advise you as far as trust and what requirements you may need for Medicare and Medicaid. These are all things that we don't think of until we need them, but if you can think about them a little bit in advance, you're ahead of the game. And like you say, you don't know, I said, only God knows our minutes, but we can prepare to make things easier for running your healthcare and your personal affairs.
That's correct, Russell. And I just want to reiterate this because this is probably the most pertinent part of this whole presentation, is that all living wills must be witnessed and notarized while you or whoever this document applies to is in a cognitive state of mind. This will has to be honored when it is being drafted, that the person was not coerced or you were not motivated by ulterior motives, that it was of your free will to put these wishes in place, and must be filed with one of the institutions in which Russell was speaking to. So we hope we've really brought a little bit of clarity to this topic today, to some people who may have been in question about what documentation they need to have in order, and particularly this time of COVID. You know, for the most part, COVID comes so fast that no one really realizes that, you know, there may be a state of urgency to put some documentation in place. So if you could do so at your best possible availability to consult with family members and yourself, then that's the best possible remedy. So we want to thank you for taking interest in this topic today. And as well as we want to thank you, Ms. J, for giving us the platform. And we thank you all for being involved in self-care at this time in your lives. Ms. J,
Thank you.
I'd like to return the session to you.
Thank you. Wonderful information as usual. And really thank you for being willing to share your information and hearts with us.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Not a problem.
Thank everyone.
Yes. And folks, thank you all for coming. I would like to remind you that in February, March, and April, I have something planned for detoxification of the whole body for the rest of the year, but I'm presenting it in 4 parts. So February is detoxification of the genitals. March is detoxification of the skin. And April is detoxification of the nervous system. I will be adding these courses to the website and being in touch with you for future sessions. I hope you'll attend. And also, I would like to have you repeat this affirmation with me as we close. Me within me, let's unmute everyone, Imara. Or would everyone unmute yourselves? Me within me is the purity.
Me within me is the purity.
Me within me is the reality.
Me within me is reality.
Me within me is the grace.
Me within me is the grace.
I am the master of the space.
I am the master of the space.
And now, enjoy. Thank you. And see you next time.
Yes, everybody. Thank you. May God bless and keep you all. And thank you for attending the Healing Project. You need to know. We love you very much.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Russ, I only see you, so this is our party.
I see some more.
There you go.
I'm out there still.
I don't know where Mara is. I don't know where Susan is, but we're out here.
We're out here. Thank you, Susan, for attending.
Thank you so much. It was so timely and so helpful. And I'm going to take this to my Quaker meeting and try to help.
Wonderful.
Help us realize.
Spread the word.
You so
spread
much.
the word.
Thank
Spread
you.
Be in touch. Thank you. I'll be at your next, Carolyn, I'll be at your next session. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward. Thank you, Susan.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe and well.
Blessings, everyone. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.